We need regulations. We need to stimulate the economy through the welfare state, through trickle-up economics.
She was calling a brothel. Under Germany's welfare reforms, any woman under 55 who has been out of work for more than a year can be forced.
They need the state. They need the welfare state. But as automation gets rid of more and more and more jobs.
Training for Revolution said, everybody go vote for him. His party. It says, here Tories, get your welfare bill through.
Firmly in cuts to welfare and benefits and in tax cuts for the rich, then you should at the very fucking least.
In America, you don't have a welfare state, or rather, what little welfare state you have to be very carefully motivated cuts to the welfare state by a bunch of rich fuckos. So, it's looking up in Britain, but the only people who are experiencing a boom and making money get the corporate welfare, whereas, the people who actually...
Are there anything that I can do here? Welfare fraud department. No, that's expensive and useless. Yeah. Continue that. So what we want to do is do policies. Welfare. Yes.
I'm dead without a functioning welfare state. At some point, the money's going to run out, and the next it's gone. It's that, staff are de-skilled, and the welfare state expands and expands and expands. About damage to the National Health Service, about damage to the welfare state. They are talking about free market capitalism watering down the welfare state, and hey, well, at least we're not as bad as the other guys.
Because genuinely, our system at the moment for cracking down on welfare fraud actually costs more money than we would save from not having a lethal benefit system, this lethal welfare social security system that is killing people. And she knows that there are people in such middle of a hard time when, there's austerity and, the welfare state is being cut back and raised an entire generation or multiple generations, and she did that because of the welfare state, and here she is.
And so therefore I am going to be dependent upon the welfare state. And currently my problem is
I am a judge by trade, but the Ministers for Retail, Animal Welfare and Human Rights agreed to hire me to be your liaison.
But do well. I'm just not going to do well. And so I am dependent on the welfare state to live, right? Or at least I am. By the way, is also costing us more money than letting the people commit welfare fraud. This is ideologically motivated. Costs. And an example of private companies removing the need for state welfare. Successive governments start paying taxpayer money into them and sort out the sort of liberal welfare issues. Sodding liberal Democrats, I think, still are the best of the...
So much more than we would gain back from using it, then, when, the welfare, checking that the welfare works,
Message me saying, hey dude, saw your latest video about how you're freaking out about the welfare state. So I suppose let's send you mine.
Law, establishing comprehensive education, founding the welfare state, guaranteeing a minimum wage in law.
And worked and abstained on the welfare bill, and what was consistently undermining unfair disability
with their unfair checks on welfare fraud, right? And how it is killing people with disabilities. The fact that it's about the policies that make the economy better, that make the welfare of the people better. You cannot fathom that it is about morality. What we want to do is welfare, rent control,
alongside a liberal agenda, alongside a welfare state idea. Suddenly you don't have these two warring factions.
Very good thing that we are going to stop spending on welfare. We will crack down on them. Or it could be a speed treating people like shit, which is the current system. Ending welfare tourism with a 5-year ban on benefits.
Yes, implement changes. Yes, implement welfare, childcare provision, economy, consumer rights.
And I know that unless the welfare state improves, or I hear diminish, and the politicians cut away at the welfare state, at social security payments, because the austerity
that they're going to scrap away with, you know, with welfare standards for animals in Britain. So, yay! Things are going to get worse!
And then the news of the welfare bill gets passed. It's even more absurd than that, because we're paying £93 billion in corporate welfare. We are paying £93 billion.
The system that cuts down, that is supposedly cutting down on welfare fraud. In other words, if our government wasn't killing the poor,
is because Labour spent too much on the welfare. The reason that we are, you know, all fucking, but hey, we're going to devote £96 billion to corporate welfare. You know, that's just the way the world works, man. That's just
a conservative's ideology of cutting back on welfare and selling things off to the wealthy is well, that's, I suppose, fundamentally why I am in favour of some sort of socialised welfare state, because people socialists, because these are people who have abstained on the welfare bills, who voted in favour of continuing hostilities in Syria, and
or right-wing government that you love when your government shrinks its welfare state even more to the point where they can't get that. Fuck it, we're gonna regrow the welfare state and we're gonna, you know, put things back to the way they were under Tony Blair.
Of his attempts to crack down on welfare fraud, which, oh, by the way, is also costing us more money than letting the people commit.
Control of the markets and democracy still decides whether the welfare state will shrink or grow. Culture doesn't change radically.
America is a country without an NHS, without a welfare state, without a public police, without a public fire station, you know.
Healthcare, anti-socialist welfare state, anti-anything that is actually to do with being in favour of life could go under, and if we do lose our jobs, then the welfare state isn't going to support us, and even if it does support us, so-called strategies to, you know, reduce on welfare fraud are actually killing people. People are dying as a result of the telecommunicative initiative. Welfare.
Of getting through the policies that you actually want, of actually taxing the rich, of putting out a decent welfare program, of you know, looking after, stimulate economic growth through benefiting the welfare state. What they do is they say, no, we have to tighten our belts, because
I actually think the welfare state is a very good idea, as having people who are just poor and left to be
Now I've got +2. Now can I go into the policies and legalise drugs yet? Economy, welfare, tax, public services.
Of the free market or pseudo-free market. But at the same time, you have a welfare state to look after people. You have a
welfare bill, by the way, that is pledging to remove the government's legal
Yeah, but I need welfare.
blaming the poor for something the rich did, who is cutting more and more and more of the welfare state because, god damn you poor people, ideology to shrink the welfare state and to increase the welfare disparity because they've got various financial interests in doing.
Who was reliant on the welfare state and thus kind of likes it a bit. But the fact that it's like, well, people's lives are being affected and that the welfare state is being stripped away. It's not about any of that. What is
Happen with poor people? This is why you have universal basic income. This is why you have welfare, because it helps you when your economy is in the shit.
Come back here demanding to have a welfare state again. You are a bitch. Fuck your poor. Only the rich can survive.
Particularly also in terms of welfare programs, like they keep people getting money for welfare programs by when it's making no difference, when the welfare system is costing us so much more than we would gain back.
System, okay? You don't have to be a massive fan of the welfare state to not fuck things up as hard as things. You can debate whether spending is better needed on the armed forces or on welfare or on benefits or the NHS.
But what we may genuinely just witness is that people just flood onto the welfare lines and they get reclassified
to sort of feel like revolution is going to happen because our welfare state is being diminished and sort of torn apart. Well, of course,
of equality, the restoration of the welfare state, or of the NHS, we might see the BBC,
a national education service. When you have, all these different welfare state things that are really awesome, because you're not wasting that money on a welfare state, and you are spending that money on, you're making use of.
This is why we have a welfare system, in that if you give people no hope whatsoever, and you let them
have well-funded welfare programs with so that people have a lot of money to spend on housing,
their benefits, the social security system, the welfare state, the thing that makes Britain great.
And it's decimating the welfare system. In fact, it's probably doing more than decimating. It's national homeless register to make it easier for those of no fixed abode to claim welfare entitlements, get access to medical and
right? And if it's not universal basic income, it will be stretching the welfare services to effectively function as one.
So much extra billions of pounds of money that's going to be going into the welfare state instead of into trade. They're just not putting in the effort, right? So fucking tear apart the welfare state and milk all the money and put all
vote. Welfare, the vote on the welfare bill going through. And I had to go up the road or something afterwards, and suddenly your country, your welfare system, the things that stop people from dying.
I'm gonna be screwed. I need a functioning welfare state. I need a socialist in charge of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
They elected right-wing governments who tore apart the welfare state that they benefited from, and now
that you present your policies to cut down on the welfare state as saving taxpayer money, that would go on to dominate what we would come to regard as the welfare state, and the new
To address the real issues are, we're gonna take more money from you, shrink the welfare state, and give it to the rich guys. Until the economy is doing well enough, until there are enough jobs for you to actually start cutting back on welfare. Because you don't
you radically reinforce the welfare state, and you make the government side more with the unions, and you make sure that the
passes with 184 Tory MPs. If those MPs had not abstained, then that welfare bill would not have gotten through. Its population is majority old. I do think that now America should slide more towards a welfare state, should slide more towards looking after people. The economy would fucking adapt if David Cameron weren't actually slashing the welfare system and giving cuts to the super rich who have the money. They had to get the cuts to welfare state from somewhere. They had to get the cuts to benefits from somewhere.
To get sort of the social security payments from the welfare state are needed if you are
by the companies, replaced by robots. You go onto the welfare state, you become a passive consumer. Spending what you want is the government to be flooding money into the welfare state, is for the government to be paying NHS
economy to, oh, it was all Labour spending too much on welfare, we need to cut down on the poor people. And that, hey, we've still got it, and just, you know, roll those £100 billion into the welfare state, and just have it that, you know, whenever they slow down an economy to be less productive. Because if the whole point of the welfare state is that we know that the Tories are doing this out of an ideology to shrink the welfare state and to increase the welfare disparity, due to there not being enough welfare system to support them. A rich person had all them. They could have the best welfare plan of all, the best climate change plan of all, and I would still be saying no. You know, yes, welfare was the issue. Welfare of the fucking banks.
So many of the enemy's policies. Yes, we are going to cut down on welfare scoundrels, and yes, we are going to strengthen and institute some kind of austerity. But Jeremy Corbyn can't actually give a proper fucking welfare state a go. Like, if they make things as bad,
people, what do you do? Because, you know, we can argue about, you know, about welfare. We can argue about income inequality, using all of these services. You know, getting the welfare state back in order, being able to regulate the system. Okay, the government.
Consumers in the regulated capitalist society. The idea is that you have a welfare state so that you can have so that the
interested in doing so, and you know what? They are the fucking wealthy elite and they will prosper. We know that they are selfish bastards.
Obviously from the policies, but it won't be a blanket and the NHS is gone and the welfare state is gone, council houses, whatever, is socially liberal and that will have a welfare state. What you have with Tony Blair in response to Margaret Thatcher, in response with student debts, and we aren't going to be able to pay them off, and we need a welfare state that can support us, or we're dead.
Their benefits, the social security system, the welfare state, the thing that makes Britain great.
In terms of, you know, a strong welfare state, a strong national health service, a strong education service.
What we want to do is to do welfare, childcare provision, yay. Get those mothers like me, okay.
From the Conservatives, all this money that is going into the welfare state. Because, hey, you know, if you're going to sign off on so many more, and that would cover the entirety of the fucking unemployment bill, of the welfare bill. There is so much shit that can be done if
people have died because of the fever cure. Key elements of the welfare state have been savagely attacked, but for the moment, we still stand. But she's, welfare. But then again, she's quite loyal. And she brings in a good amount of tin. Okay. Childcare provision, yay. Get those mothers like me, okay. And welfare. Economy, robotics research grants. Okay. I need welfare.
Still be around would that there would be some sort of welfare system and there would be jobs.
Until quite recently, when it was the welfare vote, the vote on the welfare bill going through, and we need to take a different approach, and you know, investing in a welfare state actually has more of an effect, because it turns out that austerity or anti-austerity, instead of campaigning on the welfare system, on the NHS, on Trident, you are campaigning on.
They keep people getting money for welfare programs by keeping the government spending money on war.
To care for people and to have a welfare state, and instead of appealing to the moderates, what does our
not going to do any welfare things just yet. What we are going to do is dismantling of the NHS, with the dismantling of the welfare state. You can look away like you do with all of society's problems. They're checking that the welfare works, you know, the welfare fraud investigation scheme, or whatever the fuck it's called.
the money's going to run out. I'm not going to be able to go to the welfare state for money to survive, and I'm going to die. Right-wing political parties who are reducing the welfare state, who are cutting back on the national health system, which is like, we want you to work instead of being on welfare, then, you know, make it fucking easy to get a job. The other side, since the Pax Singularis is at once a kind of welfare system to look after the poor with socialised costs,
somebody to come along and say, you know what, we're going to institute a welfare state and we're going to stop, we're going to...
Because this, to them, is ideologically motivated. They want to destroy the welfare state.
And enough jobs is well, we'll cut all the welfare, so you'll have to try really hard to try and get a job.
Basically torn up. We are going to see the welfare state dismantled. We are seeing these things happening, so it's not unreasonable to lower how much money is given out to the welfare state, to lower how much money is given out.
Fucking world, and they are voting to tear apart the very welfare state they want to milk the piss out of.
Means that the more desperate people are for jobs and for a decent welfare state, the more they are going to vote for, or they can't be productive. You have a welfare state, so if someone is in a situation whereby they aren't going to recover,
with the economy being so fucked, with the welfare state being so fucked, is that when things
Forums, and as I say, there has been a massive shift after the welfare bill, with everybody freaking the fuck out.